Good morning, everybody. I know 7:30 is pretty early, isn't it? So thank you for making it here to 7:30. So I'm supposed to be all prepared, but I was trying to get prepared for everybody, so I'm not prepared. But Seymour told me to just smile, and everything will go well. So I'm going to just smile. But welcome to our first inaugural Change Leadership Conference. I am so excited. Thank you, everybody. I'm really, really excited to have you here. And you're probably thinking, why Change Leadership Conference? Why am I doing this? You know, all through the process, I did kick myself. What did I get myself into? You know, with all of the planning, I kept on kicking myself. What did I get myself into? But when you're so passionate about something and you believe in something, and I believe in change, I was saying to Tahara, I'm change management, so I do change management, strategy, and consulting, and all of that. But one thing I've realized that change doesn't happen except leadership exists. Yeah. It takes leadership for change to happen. I've worked with a lot of leaders, with a lot of sponsors, thrown money at projects, thrown resources at projects, but except leadership exists, nothing happens. I found that to be very key, and that was a passion through which I decided to do this. And you know the biggest passion? I said, if anybody's going to be in our first conference, inaugural, who better than the global leadership expert, John Maxwell, to do it?
Exactly. Thank you.
Who better than him? You know, I'm part of the John Maxwell team, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, but that's the reason why I joined, because I read John's books, and every time I read it, I'm getting an aha moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. You know, so I'm not going to introduce, you've read about John, but one thing I'm going to say, John is our friend. Correct?
Yeah, absolutely.
John is our friend. John is awesome. John believes in leadership. And John doesn't do that only at a local level. He does that globally, speaking to leaders and presidents of countries around the world. So for him to be with us here is really a big privilege. And without further ado, I will welcome John.
Thank you, Vaughn. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning. It was a delight. Most of you I've really got to talk to individually and sign most of your books, take some pictures, and it's just really wonderful to be with you. Delighted. And Yvonne is one of our coaches. We have a company called the John Maxwell Team, a very successful coaching company. We really coach entrepreneurs. And we just started it 5 years ago, and we have 14,000 coaches now in 132 countries. And it's just phenomenal what we teach them, basically coaching skills, leadership skills, sales skills, how to consult very well, entrepreneurship type skills. We just really take them and put them in these different lanes, and it's been great. So we got Yvonne's a coach, Joel's a coach. We got your coach. How many coaches do we have? All the coaches here? We got clear back. We got about 5 or 6 of you. Good. So if you want to know more about the coaching company, just see Yvonne. Or Joel, and they'll be glad to tell you how you can become part of it. Okay, but it's really an honor to be here with you, and I want to add value to you and help you, just basically talk about change. So if it's okay, let's just get going. Is that all right? And let me just give you some thoughts on change, and then we'll do a little Q&A. Okay, I got to give me a little bearing on my time, okay? What time do I need to finish? Somebody needs to talk to me. Okay, so I got 40 minutes. I can go to 9:15.
Yes, you can go to 9:15 because the other session doesn't start until 9:30.
Okay, so I can go to 9:15. Did she say I could go to 9:15? Thank you. That's good. That's what I heard too. Okay, let's go. It was very interesting. I was the ladies here on the table here from the RNC, right? RBC, I'm sorry, Royal Bank of Canada. Damn Yankee, you know. So we were having a very interesting conversation. They were sharing with me that we were talking about developing the leader within you, a book that I wrote 25 years ago that was a breakthrough book on leadership. And one of the chapters in that book is about change and about how to lead change correctly, and so I want to kind of talk to you about that. To me, the greatest test of a leader is the ability to take something that is going down, a company, an organization, a team, but it's going south, and come in, assess the situation, and stop the the fall, level it out, and I call this U-turn leadership, basically, and then turn it and get it going back up. If you can U-turn your company, your organization, your team, if you can take something that's really going the wrong way, stop it, settle it, and then put it back up the right way, you are an awesome leader. I think that's the acid test of leadership. It's not the acid test of leadership to take something that's doing well and continue to let it do well. That may mean you lead well, but what it really means is somebody else already set the course for you, and you're just kind of running the course with them. But to take a problem and solve it, to take an organization that's failing and stop the failure and turn it around and bring positive change about is to me the greatest test of your leadership skills. When you can do that, you can look at anybody with great credibility and say, I know how to lead. I'm a good leader. Because what do leaders do? Leaders make things better for people. That's what leaders do. Leaders make things better for companies. And so to do that is the acid test of a leader. And the reason why it's such a challenge is because people normally, naturally resist change. I saw a cartoon the other day where the leaders looked at the people and said, how many of you want change? And every hand was in the air. And then the second question was, how many of you want to change? And no hands were in the air. It's kind of like, oh, you mean me? Oh, well, I don't think I was for it until I realized it was involving me. Because isn't it true? Don't we have people around us we want to change all the time? It's like, how many of you have somebody you just want to change? You know what I'm talking about? You just want to, you get it? Yeah. How many of you are sitting beside that person right now? How many of you brought them here for that reason? I brought them here so we could get this change going. What happens is change is awkward. It's very awkward. And people being insecure do not like awkwardness. And so let me illustrate just quickly. Take your hand and just clasp your hand like I have it right here, okay? Okay, you got it? Good, okay. Now we do this thousands and thousands of times in our lifetime. Now, just take your hand and go one finger over and clasp it. You know what you've never done? You never clasped your hands that way before. The thousands of times you've done it, you've always done it the same way. And when you do it the way you're used to, it just feels right, doesn't it? You go the other way, you go, oh, it's really practicing, I'm working, I'm just getting ready to go, and I really want to do a great job. And I say, oh, relax. It won't be any good. Don't work so hard. No, relax. And I'll say, what do you mean it won't be any good? I've never done it before. I really want to do a great job. You're not that good. Nobody's good to be great on the first time. When you started talking, you didn't talk in sentences. When you started walking, you didn't walk in steps. When we start anything, it's awkward and it's new, and we're not any good at it. Now, let me say something. When you start something that you know you're not going to be very good at, you already oppose it. You're not for it. There's nothing exciting about, oh, wow, man, this is super. I'm going to do something I'm going to fail in. This is amazing. Wow, I can hardly wait to fall and mess up. So when you understand the psychology of change, then you understand the value that leaders do, because leaders are change agents. Now, I made a discovery because leadership has been my life for so many years. I've walked through the leadership patch a lot. And I used to think that leaders liked change and followers did not. So it was kind of like leaders out there in front, and they're going through the jungle, and they're cutting the swath, and leaders just, man, they love this change. Come on, folks, come on, and the followers, please, Mr. Custer, I don't want to go, I don't want to go, and I say leaders like change and followers don't like change, but that's not true. It's really not true. Leaders don't like change any more than followers, unless it's their idea. And so I've watched change not happen in companies and in organizations for one simple reason. It didn't happen in organizations because the leaders didn't want it. The leaders didn't want the change. They had turf that they had to protect. My gosh, I've got this thing over here. It's my kingdom. And what I found was that leaders are you have to break through leaders to get change in an organization. Followers aren't the problem. They don't have that much influence anyway. So when change doesn't happen within an organization, it's not a follower problem. It's a leadership problem. And the moment that you come to grasp with that, the fact that, yes, we have leaders, but here's the problem. You've got leaders who don't want change. You've got leaders who have the assumption that they can build something so good that once they get it in that state, it can stay that way the rest of their life. And so they do it, and then they protect it the rest of their life. Not understanding that nothing can be built that good and nobody's that good of a leader. That we have to constantly in our life understand that we're going to continually be changing within our life. So I'm a young leader, very young, in my 20s, and I'm going into my first big building project of multi-millions of dollars, and I've never raised $100,000 in my life. So I'm way over my head. And I know that I'm going to have to bring people through a major change, and I'm not experienced myself, and I don't know how to do it, and really I don't have a mentor that I can kind of go to and ask. So I'm sitting as a young kid saying, okay, I have to bring people through a process of change. How am I going to do it? 40 plus years later, the same process I used in my 20s, I still use today because it is so stinking good. It just works. And it's so simple. I love something when it's good and simple, okay? Because I'm a communicator. I'm not an educator. I have an education, but I'm not an educator. I try not to be an educator. An educator takes something simple and makes it complicated. You with me? If you're not confused, they're not happy. A communicator takes something complicated and makes it simple. Breaks it down. Bite-sized pieces. Easy steps. So I said, how do I bring, at this time we had probably 3,500, 4,000 people in our organization. How do I bring them through this process of change? I'm 27 years old. How do I do that? And so I took the word plan ahead, and I developed my process. So let me give it to you. The letter P, okay? The letter P stands for predetermine the change that is needed. What a leader's responsibility is when it comes to change is that we are to predetermine the change, the desired result of what this change must be. Most people are not involved in that process. Most people are running from that process. So it's a leader's responsibility to say what change is needed within the organization. Because all leaders have one thing in common, and only one thing in common, by the way. The only thing that I've ever discovered about leadership that everybody has in common, that are true leaders, is that leaders see more than others see, and they see before others see. Now, that's a fact. So if you don't see more than other people see, which means that you're going to see change that needs to happen, while everybody else is enraptured with what is going on, you're seeing a bigger picture of what could happen. Okay? So you get the big picture, they don't. So you see more than others see, but you also see before others see. And that puts you out on the front. You're going to have to be the spokesman for change because you see it coming before anyone else sees it coming. Now, all leaders have that in common. So therefore, if you're at the table and everybody else sees more than you see, and you're at the table and everybody sees before you see, let me explain something to you. You are not the leader of the pack. Because if you're always, oh my gosh, I didn't see that. Ooh, didn't see that coming. You know, in the States, kind of like Mr. Magoo, you know. Do they have Mr. Magoo up in Canada? You know what I mean? He just kind of blindly goes through life and just barely misses disasters and has no clue how bad he really is and somehow gets safe to the other side. That's a lot of people who have leadership positions. Now, when you see more than others see and you see before others see, that means that the responsibility to bring positive change in the lives of people will always be on your lap. Always be on your lap. It's because you see it. They don't see it. Big picture, you see it before others. The other day I was getting ready to go speak for a company, and so they were doing a podcast with me, and they said, John, our theme when you come to speak for us is fast forward. That was their theme, fast forward. So they just said, what do you think of the theme? I said, well, I like it, I like it. They said, well, what does it mean to you? I said, well, what it means is very simple. When I think of the word fast, here's the way this works, friends. Fast in the future is faster than it is today. That's what I know. Fast is going to be faster. If you think somehow that next year is going to slow down, and next year the pace is going to be more manageable, you just, outside of needing to be in a drug rehab program, you have no other issues in your life. Because it's going to get faster. Everything's going to keep speeding up. And by the way, that's why leadership is on the forefront today. If you went in the 1980s into a bookstore, you wouldn't find one leadership book on the shelves. It was all management. It was Peter Drucker stuff. It was all management, because you can manage things at a decent pace, but you can't manage them at a quick pace. And so all of a sudden we had to go to leadership because we had to get in front of the problem, not just be with the problem. And so fast is faster, okay? Now, not only is fast faster, when you look at, but then the second word was forward. And I said, fast is faster, and let me tell you about forward. Forward is shorter. Now, get the picture what you got. Fast is faster and forward shorter. So tomorrow it means that the pace is going to be greater than it is today, and you're going to have less time to be successful in it. There was a time when you could be first, or maybe you could come in second, or you could come in third. In the future, there'll be no second and third. There'll be a first. You either got it and won, or you didn't get it and you lost. When I started out, a long-range plan was 10 years. So you did a 10-year plan, then you had a mid-range plan, which was about 5 years, and then you had the short-range plan, which was about 2 years. It's hysterical, isn't it? I mean, thinking about it, 10-year, 5-year, a 2-year was a short-range plan. A 2-year now is an exaggerated long-range plan. It's like, okay, let's do 12 months and then figure out what the last 12 are going to look like, because fast is faster and forward is shorter. That's the world you live in. Now, it's a world that is ideal for people that are good with dealing with change. It is not a world that's ideal for people that want to keep things the same. And so therefore, if you have a tendency to want to protect and defend and hold and oh my God, we've got it down, if it ain't broke, or don't fix it, and what I'm telling you is it's broke. It's just broke. Go start fixing. Nothing stays good very long. Nothing stays strong very long. Nothing goes up very long without you working, tweaking, changing, fixing. And so like Mark Cole, who's our CEO of we have 6 companies. And Mark Cole's over here. Just give him a wave there. Mark's been with me for 17 years. And he's the CEO of all my companies. Now, we have presidents in all the companies, but he runs everything, and he stays with me basically all the time, so we constantly talk vision, and I can speak into his life so he can speak into the presidents of the company's lives. And Mark and I understand that the only kind of leaders we want to attract at all are builders. If you can't build, we have no interest in you. Because you have got to have the ability to take something and with fast being faster and forward being shorter, and understand and act quick and move fast and be able to build it. Because if you're saying, well, I do really good with companies that are doing well, I'm kind of like a caretaker, that job will last you 6 months. And then it starts to fall apart. And unless you can change, unless you can stay creative, unless you can stay on the edge, unless you have a pretty good courage, you're going to be in trouble. Okay, so predetermine the course of action that is needed. Then, that's the P. The L stands for lay out your steps. Once you determine what the course of action is, now, what are the steps going to be that you're going to take? And the best way I can explain steps is I consider them to be your goals. What are the four things, four goals we have to do to achieve the overall purpose of what we're wanting to accomplish there? But what are the steps? And I call this, I just started writing on this. In fact, I was talking to Mark about it yesterday when we were coming up on the plane. I'm calling it the leadership dance. And the leadership dance basically says, in the steps that you take, that in the beginning you walk ahead. You walk ahead of your people so that they can watch you do it. They can see the example. You're modeling for it, because leadership is highly visual. People do what people see. So you walk ahead. You're visual. Okay? Now, you have to, when I say walk ahead, you walk ahead, but you're close to your people. You're not far ahead. Okay? If you're way ahead of your people, you're not a leader. You're a martyr. Okay? They kill you. They kill you, and then 5 years later regret it. Say, oh my God, we killed the wrong person. We should have been killing all those people who were doing nothing. You know what I'm saying? Man, bring the deadbeats back. Shoot them. Don't shoot the guy that's way ahead. But that's what we do as martyrs. And why are you a martyr? You're a martyr because you're too far ahead of your people. So you're saying things they can't comprehend, understand, accept. Are you with me? So, but the first part of the leadership dance in taking people through the journey is you walk ahead of them. And then the second part of the leadership dance is you walk beside them. And when you walk beside them, now what you're doing is you're listening to them. You've already modeled what you want to see. Now you're listening to them to see if it's taking, and you're talking about the journey. You're talking with them about the journey. This is why we're doing this. This is why it makes sense. It's kind of like now you're a fellow passenger, and say, sit beside me, sit beside me. You're doing good. And then the third step in the leadership dance is that you walk behind them. And when you walk behind them, now you're empowering them to do it. You're watching, you're observing, you tweak them every once in a while. But now it's more of an empowerment release atmosphere. And that leadership dance never stops. It never stops. And in your organization, they're playing a song right now. And with some people, you're in front of them, and some people, you're beside them, and some people, you're behind them. Now, always understand this, that in that second step when you're sitting beside them and you're walking with them and listening and hearing the journey, if you never can get walking behind them, you got the wrong person on your team. And I watch this happen a lot where we only go 2 steps in the dance. We walk before them, we walk beside them, but we never walk behind them because they never get it. They never take off. They never have the initiative. And so therefore you can't empower them the way you want to. But you lay out your steps in this planning process. So predetermine the change you want, then you start laying out the steps, and then the letter A stands for adjust your priorities. I love this part of the leadership change strategy. And the reason I say you adjust your priorities is, let me tell you what the journey does. The journey introduces you to reality. There's nothing like doing it that allows you to see how well it's going. You don't know how well it's going until you do it. And that's why I tell people, plan, think, do all that's good, but you don't know what you got until you start moving. The moment you start moving, you're going to now know what you have, but you don't know what you have until you start moving. So one of the things that leaders do really well, that managers don't do well, is leaders initiate before the people are ready. Managers wait for everybody to be ready. If you wait for everybody to be ready, you're going to be managing something that's already, by the time it moves, it's already out of date. So the good news is you got it moving. The bad news is that was 2 years ago you needed to be doing that, and somebody's doing something better and faster than you now, and so you again lost. Remember this, if you snooze, you lose. And in understanding how change works within an organization, if you are always 2 steps behind, you are not leading the organization. You've got to be. So the journey introduces everybody to reality. And what is reality? Reality is that 50% of the stuff that you had on paper doesn't work. And this is where leadership begins to really pay its way. You get paid not for figuring out on the front hand what works. You get paid when you're in the midst of the battle figuring out what works. And leaders do that exceptionally well. So they're constantly, they're very agile, they're very loose. They have this ability to say, oh, this isn't working, okay, well, let's go ahead. And they don't consider it a personal affront. They don't go, oh my gosh, I'm the one that laid this plan out, and already this thing isn't working over here, and what are the people going to think about me? You know what? If you're worried about what the people think about you, you're already a pathetic leader. Okay, you're just pathetic. You're not on Dancing with the Stars. So get over yourself. Because what happens is you don't know reality until you start the journey. And so when I watch these people, they say, well, we got this. Oh, this is an amazing plan we've got. Well, it's amazing until you do it. Ernest Hemingway said he's a writer. He said the first draft is always shit. So remember, when you launch your plan, you're launching a lot of shit. Okay? And it's okay, because leaders clean the mess up. They say, oh my gosh, we didn't mean to do that one. Get that off us. We don't want to do that. We want to go and do that. See, again, the ability to be light and agile and flexible, this is because you're going, in fact, most of your plan A's become plan B. And it's plan B that you milk and make successful that makes you a successful leader. You're not successful because you get it right on the front end. You're successful because you make it right during the journey. Understand that. You're not successful because you're good on the front end. You're successful because you make it happen while it's happening. That's where you show your success. And by the way, if I'm defending the actions of my people because we aren't doing it right, I can't be agile. You can't be defensive and agile at the same time. You can't seize the moment when you're trying to protect it. So, your plan A becomes a plan B, and you become a great leader because you know how to take plan B and make it successful. There are two words I want you just to write down on adjusting your priorities because I love these two words. I wish I had time to teach them. One is what I call leadership tenacity, and the other is leadership flexibility. And when you're in this A of adjusting your priorities because you're now introduced to the reality of the journey, leadership tenacity says there's always an answer. There's always an answer. I would never have anybody on my leadership team that did not believe there's always an answer. You show me a person that doesn't believe there's always an answer, and I'll show you somebody that has always an excuse. There's always an answer. Now, you may not have figured it out, but trust me, there's an answer. If you believe that, it gives you tenacity. You don't stop. You stay in the game because there's an answer. There's an answer. Don't know what it is yet, but there's an answer. That gives you leadership tenacity. If you don't think there's an answer, you quit. And change will wear you out. So the temptation with change is because it's all uphill. It's never easy. The challenge with change is to say, oh my gosh, I'm just tired. I'm just worn out. Well, if you believe there's always an answer, that'll give you the energy. That'll give you the energy that you need. That's leadership tenacity. The second, though, phrase is leadership flexibility. And leadership flexibility means there's usually more than one answer. There's usually 3 or 4. And so now what happens there is that allows you to stay creative, and it also allows you to know that once you've found an answer, you're always looking for a better answer. Now, this is huge, so get this. Don't miss this on being agile and being able to move and seize the moment. Don't miss this. When people believe there's just one answer, when they find it, they get set. And getting set is not a good thing. You with me? I had a friend of mine who went back to my 10th year college reunion, and I found out that he had been a pastor, and he became an undertaker. His name was Stuart. I said, Stuart, what'd you do, buddy? Oh, he said, pastoring was hard. You counsel with people, and you try to help them, try to fix them. They don't go do stupid things anyway. He says, you know what I love about my job? He said, now as an undertaker, when I straighten them out, they stay straight. Huh? Isn't that beautiful? And you know what? You know what? Most leaders would like to be undertakers. Most leaders really need to be in the funeral home business. Need to get a casket, get some tears, because then, oh my God, oh, thank you, I got that straight. Woo, I'm done with that. Leaders are done with nothing. There is not 2 good consecutive days in a leader's life, because everything's moving. Everything's changing. Nothing's going to stay the same. So adjust your priorities. The letter N. The letter N stands for notify key personnel. When change is happening, you got to get to what I call the 10%. The 10% are the key personnel. The 10% tell the other 90% what they're going to do. Okay? And there's 2 kinds of key people that on the front end, when change is about to occur, that you need to spend time with. You've got, first of all, your influencers. Your influencers are the ones that carry the influence within the team. And basically, everybody watches them, and they, quote, follow the leader. And so the influencers, you need their approval to get the project off the ground, to fly. I mean, if your influencers say, we like this, okay? So you got to get them on the front end. You got to get their support. You got to get their buy-in on the front end. You don't get their buy-in on the back end. Remember this, never surprise an influencer. If you surprise an influencer, you get surprised. And you don't want to get surprised. Trust me. So you don't surprise them. You let them in on it from the very beginning. Say, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? Let's talk about it. Let's discuss it. Let's see if we can pull something off here. The second group of people are your implementers. They're the ones that have to do it. In other words, these are the people, I mean, the influencers are going to, you got to get their approval to get the project to fly. The implementers, they're going to fly the project. And you got to get buy-in from those 2 people on the very front end. So that's what I call out notifying key personnel. You bring them around and say, here's what we're thinking, here's what we're seeing. Okay, let's talk about it. Influencers, implementers, you want to get their buy-in. So what you want to do is have what I was taught in my 20s by a guy named Olin Hendricks that was life-changing to me in the area of helping create change in a positive way in organizations. And he said, John, always understand this. When you're going to have a meeting before the meeting. And on the meeting before the meeting, get your key influencers there. And he said, if the meeting before the meeting is a good meeting, then have the meeting. If the meeting before the meeting is a bad meeting, don't have the meeting. Because if you have a meeting before the meeting and it's a bad meeting, when you have the meeting, it's going to be a bad meeting. Are we getting this? Notify key personnel. The letter A. I've got 3 minutes. Oh, I got 5 minutes. So I love this. Joe, wait, put that sign back up there. Let me look what I'm looking at right back there. Now just everybody look at this. Look at this. Do you not think they must feel they have a stupid speaker? I love it. But they just say, that sign is a result of a bad experience. That result, let me tell you, they didn't have a sign one time and a guy kept talking. You know what I'm saying? And they thought, he is screwing this whole thing up. And so they said, we're never going to let that happen again. So, 5, 4, 3. I mean, after a while, I'm going to think I'm at Cape Canaveral, okay? We're going to launch something out here. Okay, 5 minutes. Letter A, allow time for acceptance. Now, this is where leadership is an art. A lot of leadership, and this is the art stage. This allowing time for acceptance is in an art form. It's very hard to teach, but it's essential for your success. In the 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the book that you have that I signed today, there are 2 of those 21 laws that are very difficult to teach and they're very difficult to learn. And when I wrote them, I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to teach them? And those 2 laws are the law of intuition and the law of timing. Because the only people that are intuitive and have good timing in leadership are people that have natural leadership gifts. If you don't have natural leadership gifts, you're just going to miss the timing. You're just not going to sense you're not going to be intuitive. So everybody else is going to smell it, and you're not even smelling it yet. And this leadership art of allowing time for acceptance, and what I would just say to you here, because, I mean, this could be a 2-hour teaching here, But what I would say to you in allowing time for acceptance is this. And this is something I teach myself all the time. This is a major flaw in my leadership, a major weakness. I think things can get done quicker than they can get done. I think things should get done quicker than they should get done. I expect things to get done quicker than they get done. And let me just say this. The farther you are away from the problem or the challenge, the quicker you think it can get done. The only experts in the world are people that are so far from it that they don't have to touch it. Because when you have to live with it, so I'm sitting down with Mark and I'll say, okay, Mark, let's talk about this company. There's some things I want. Let's tweak it. Let's move it over here. And so Mark and I are talking about it, and I said, yeah, okay, go down there and handle that thing. Let's see if we can't in a month get that back on track like it do. And Mark's looking at me. And he's saying to me, he doesn't, I mean, he's very nice to me. He's nice to me. I'm an old man. He's nice to me. But as I'm saying, you know, can we in a month kind of get that on course again, and so we could move on in this process? And he's just saying, I'll do my best, stupid old man. I'll do my best. It's obvious you don't have to go talk to the people. It's obvious you don't have to go implement anything. It's obvious that you're in a lofty tower where things can be done very quickly. And yes, so I'll take your month plan and we'll see if we can't get it done in 3 months for you. He deals with reality. I deal with theory. I deal with I already know what should be done. It's again, that's kind of here. One of the great things about leadership, once people, this is why it's such an art. Knowing the answer doesn't make you a leader, it just makes you smart. Being able to take what you know and bring it through a successful change and transition makes you a leader. And you just got to allow time for acceptance. You got to slow down, and you got to be very clear in your communication. And when people have problems here, it's almost always that they're either going too fast or they're unclear. It's a clarity issue or a speed issue. But allow time for acceptance. The letter H stands for head into action. In other words, there's a time when you have to get the ship moving, okay? And I love the head into action. I wrote a book a couple years ago that is, you know, I don't know, 100 books or whatever I've read or written. Some lady told me the other day, she said, you've written more books than I've read. But probably my favorite book and the most life-changing book is a book I wrote a couple years ago called Intentional Living. It's life-changing. It's just, that book will just, once you understand, and basically intentional living is, the whole thesis on intentional living is good intentions are a farce. The most overrated thing in the world is somebody that's going to do something. Well, you know, I think, and I love people say, well, you know, we got them on the team and, you know, they got a good heart. I said, now are we judging their health or are we judging their excellence? If we're judging their health, that means they're going to live a long time. Well, that's good. And so is that what qualifies people to be around our table? They got a good heart. A good heart is worthless unless it goes into action. Nothing's more worthless than good intentions, because good intentions make you not do anything because everybody says you got a good heart. And intentional living says you can't accept your life, you got to lead your life. And intentional living intentional is the bridge between good intentions and good actions. And there's a time when you have to head into action and you have to say, okay, let's go. And let me say this. You never know the level of commitment in your team's life until they have to take action on something. It's at the action level you find how committed people are. They can talk theory around the table until we're tired of theory. But once they have to perform, once they have to act, once they have to do it, that's when you're going to find out what the commitment level of your people is. So you head into action. The letter E is expect problems. Expect problems, okay? And why is that? It's very simple. Motion causes friction. And when you head into action, you're going to have all kind of problems. Again, you never know what you got until you start the journey. Now, here's the leadership mistake, and I see leaders make it all the time. Leaders head into action without letting their people know that problems are going to happen. So what they do is they try to sell the vision, and they sell it short. oh, this is going to be great, this is going to be wonderful, we're going to get better, we're going to make more money, and they go all this huff and puff. You think you're in an Amway convention. And they're just positive, and they're just shooting up all kind of stuff. And, and they never say, now let me tell you something. When we do this, there's all kind of problems that's going to happen here. Because we're doing the right thing, there's going to be all kind of wrong stuff happen to us. And so what happens is this. As a leader, you have to not only anticipate the problems of the change, you have to speak about the problems of the change. This is huge. I found out a long time ago. Let people right now, we know, okay, when we do this, there are 3 things I can see already that we're going to have to work with, 3 challenges. And let me tell you what those challenges are. Now, the reason you do that is once they get going in this process, when there's a problem occur, if you address it on the front end, they say, oh, well, you know what? John already talked to us about that. He said that we were going to have, he said we'd have this if we went this route. But if you don't admit to problems or you don't talk about problems, what happens is when they run the problems, the first thing they think of, bad change, wrong change, did the wrong thing, oh my gosh, back up, get out of here, where's the exit? Nothing makes people that are following more insecure than to think that their leader doesn't know what's happening. That really creates insecurity, and that'll paralyze and freeze an organization very fast. The way you omit that is by being up front and saying, hey, gang, let me tell you something. There are 3 challenges I'm going to have with this change. They're going to be very difficult. We're going to get through them, but I want you to see them on the front end. So expect problems. The letter A, I got to give you some Q&A. I'm 5 minutes over. My gosh. All right. Let's just not do the next session. Let me just stay here and teach here for a while, okay? The letter A, always point to the successes. And the reason you always point to the successes is that's what feeds hope. You know, what did Napoleon say? Leaders are dealers in hope. So every time you make a change and there's something working with it, you say, let me tell you something. Boy, this department over here, look what they just did last month because they've just implemented this. And you're always pointing this. And then the letter D stands for daily review your progress. And what that means is very simple. How long does it take for an organization to get off track? About a day. About a day. That's just about how long it takes. So if it takes about a day for you to start to lose focus, start to get distracted, then you as a leader better daily review the progress and every day stay on top of it and say, how well are we doing? Okay? That makes sense? So that's a little kind of a guideline that I've used to take and lead people through change for quite a few years, and it just works. It just works, and it's kind of simple. If it helps you, great. And if you got a better one, bring it up to me, would you? And I'll start using yours, okay? And in fact, if you got a better one, I'll put it in my book, okay? And I'll give you credit. Don't worry, I'll give you credit. Okay. I won't give you any royalties, but I'll give you credit. I'll give you the credit. I'll keep the royalties. All right, that's how that works. Okay. Now, good. Okay, hopefully that was really practical and helpful and something you can put you can go back and say, okay, I got my team here, I can implement. So let's do Q&A for maybe 10, 15 minutes, whatever we got, and then we'll get ready to go to the next session. So who would like to start off with any questions you have? Okay, we'll start up here. We got a microphone. Just give me your name.
Hi everyone, this is Jenny. John, I just wanted to ask about what you think with the current trends towards the concept of followership, and that followership is the other half of the leadership sandwich.
Wait, Jenny, don't leave me. I don't understand the question yet.
So
we're on followership.
Followership, exactly. So there's this whole trend to the fact that looking just at leadership is just looking at just one of your hands and not considering what the other hand is doing. So wanting to understand your views on that and how you feel the concept of followership fits with leadership.
I still don't understand the question. So it's okay. It's okay. It's not that it's a bad question, it's that I'm slow.
Okay.
So I don't understand that one hand doesn't know what the other hand's doing.
Sure. So the concept of followership is that there are many different types of follower, and they can either help the leader to do a better job, they can derail the leader, they can be loyal. There are several different types. So what they're saying now is that if you're looking at leadership, trying to be a better leader, it's not just about your skills and how you influence the follower. It's how the followers influence you. And therefore, the fact that you should be considering followership as well as leadership.
Well, every time you ask the question, I understand it a little bit better. But I'm not quite there. But let me talk about it. Let me try something. If you're talking about a concept that says that before you lead well, you need to learn to follow well, I like that very much. I believe I'm a follower. I don't lead everything. In fact, in the companies that I own and I founded, Mark is the leader. I mean, almost every day I call him and ask him how I can serve him. You with me? So, so if you're saying leaders should be good followers, that is absolutely true. I would never follow a leader who has never followed somebody, because they don't understand me. They don't know where I am. There's not going to be any connection. There's not going to be kind of empathy to who I am and where I am. So that part I really agree with. I think you need to walk slowly through the crowd. I think that all great leaders listen well and learn from their followers. Very much so. Listen, and learn. In fact, the cycle is listen, learn, and lead. Listen, learn, and lead. Listen, learn, and lead. So I think that followers have much to contribute to a leader's success. So if that's where we're going, and that leaders should also be followers first, then I'm right on board. Anything else I just didn't understand, okay? Okay, let's try another question. Maybe I'll do better on this one. Okay, yes, right? Okay, right there, he's coming.
Thank you. When you talked about adjusting the priorities, that there's nothing like doing it, and that you make it right during the journey.
Yes.
You make a lot of emphasis about that. That created a question in my mind. I understand the flexibility part, that you have to be flexible, that you learn what you do, and plan B is the one that works, so on and so forth. In that, it sounds to me, or I get the impression, that solid planning is a little bit out of the window. And
No, solid planning is very essential.
And that's exactly where I was going. I wanted to get your perspective. I'm a
It's very
believer
important.
in flexible planning.
Yeah.
Have a really strong, flexible plan.
Yeah.
Because that plan creates enough understanding for people to know where
Absolutely.
we're going.
No question. And that could be my fault. I could have been over killing the adjustment side, but the whole, if you'll think about the strategy, I guess what that was called? Plan ahead. So planning is very essential. I mean, who wants to follow a stupid leader who doesn't have any foresight or planning? But what I am saying, here, this is where this is important. Was it Wilson? Yes. Wilson. Here's what's very important. Here's where this is very important. Make sure your ego is not involved in your planning. Because what happens, Wilson, I say it happens all the time. Because it's my idea, I have to defend it. That's a bunch of BS. Probably you have to defend it because you're not that smart and you don't get your ideas right every time. So get over yourself. Again, leaders, when I teach people how to connect and communicate with the crowd, the first thing I tell a person on is not subject matter. I'm not Toastmasters, good Lord. It's not what's your subject and what's your structure and all that baloney. There's one very simple thing. You want to be a great communicator? I can tell you how to be a great communicator. Get over yourself. Quit worrying about what people think about what you're doing. Because if you think about what you're doing, you're thinking about what you're doing and you're not connecting with people. Connecting is a 100% focus. And the only way I can 100% focus is to be all about you and nothing about me. So I come in loaded with my material, but the moment I come in, it's all about you. It's not about with my material. The material just unleashes. That's connect. It's the same way with leading. See, here's what I found out about leaders. If they come into an organization, they have no problem talking about all the changes they need to make within the organization because they didn't implement any of that stuff. The moment they start implementing, they start defending. And that's what I hate about leaders. I started it, and so, my gosh, I got to defend it. No. You got to do your best with it until you find something better, and then you switch as quickly as you can. And so you always want to have good planning, but you don't want to let planning get in the way of opportunity. I mean, I watch people all the time miss a major opportunity because, that wasn't in our plan. Well, then stick your head out of the hole for a little bit, figure out what the opportunity is, and get with it. So, but always good planning, always on the front end. So I probably didn't do a good job underpinning that, but when you have 22 minutes and you've got a 3-hour lecture, I mean, what are you going to do, huh? The reason I'm glad I'm up here in Canada, you're smart enough to get it quick, you know what I mean? If I was in the States, this is a 2-day seminar, you understand that. Okay, so you sit there and, all right, let's go over it again. One more time. Hut, 1, 2, 3, hut, 1, 2, 3. Okay, good. Next question. All right, he's coming to you.
Thank you. John, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here. And I think most of us in this room understand that you are role modeling for us what great leadership really is. And as I sit here, I'm like, wow, if I could only be working with John. So my question to you is this. Many of the leaders in our organizations really want to be great change leaders, but they may have never done it before. And they may not be open to the idea that being a great change leader requires them to maybe learn a few things or operate a bit differently. So how do you relate to these kinds of leaders who maybe not ready yet or open yet? How do you get them to open up to some of the ideas that you have that you know are successful?
I think that's a great question. Because in any organization, you deal with people that haven't done that yet. And so there's a fear and an intimidation, and it goes back to, and think about it, why do we fear all this? Why do we fear change? Because we're afraid, quote, of failure. It's a failure issue. So it's not really a change issue, it's a failure issue. And so what you have to do on the front end is address the failure issue. And it's very simple to do that. You just help people understand there will be many failures in your journey. In fact, I've always said, my father was a college president for 17 years, and I've always thought that freshman 101 class, the first class a kid should get when they go to college, is a failure 101 class. Somebody will sit there and say, let me explain to you, you're going to fail more than you succeed in life. So let me talk to you about how to handle failure, because you're going to fail. And it's not the failure that's the problem. It's the response to the failure. You either learn from it and get better, or you leave it and excuse it and get worse. And so what I think that you don't really address change. I really think that you have to create a culture, an environment where it's okay to fail. So what I do is I constantly talk about my misses in life. I tell them all the time. I'll say, let me tell you some of the dumb things I've done in my leadership. And I'm very open about it. And I think, my gosh, how could I have been so stupid? Here we go. And all I'm doing is I'm just saying, I want you to understand. You may think I'm wonderful. You may think I'm an incredible leader. But I have had a lot of missteps in my journey. And you are going to also. And so the first thing a person needs to do is they need to come to embrace failure as a friend. Because failure has taught me a lot more than success. And so I try to help people understand that it's in fact, I wrote a book many years ago called Failing Forward. And the whole thesis of the book was that really what you want to do through life is to fail forward. Don't fail backwards, fail forward. If you fail forward, you were learning something from it. So you're 6 feet, when you fell on the ground, you're 6 feet closer than you were when you're standing, okay? Get back up and fail forward. And so I think that we have to create a culture and an environment where failure is not something to be feared. Now, let me address that for one more moment. We also go, and this is kind of an American problem, probably not a Canadian problem, but it is definitely an American problem. We really love tenacity. We love guys and ladies who get back up and get back up and get back up. And it's the Wild West, and they love that. So they knocked him down, they got back up, knocked him down, got back up, and we, oh man, look at that person. They just keep getting back up. Aren't they amazing? No, they're quite stupid. That's not a tenacious issue. That's a stupidity issue. When you get knocked down, while you're down, figure out what happened. Take a moment. Don't be so insecure. And by the way, insecure people will never reflect on their issues. Don't be so insecure that you got to get back up like nothing happened. You're going to just get knocked back down. You kept getting knocked down because you're so stupid you haven't learned yet. While you're on the ground, think and reflect, because reflection turns experience into insight. Think about what's happening to you while you're on the ground. and, ooh, this is what's causing me to get knocked down, and don't get back up until you figured it out, and then get back up. So, in teaching failure, create an environment where it's okay to fail, but it isn't okay to keep getting knocked down. Because here's what I say, it's okay to fail, but it's never okay not to learn from your failure. So when people talk to me about their failures, the first question I ask is not about their failures. I ask, what did you learn from them? If you can tell me what you're learning from your failures, you're doing really good. Welcome to my world. If you're not learning from your failures, join Stupidville, okay? Okay, next question. Are we done?
Yes, we are.
Oh, there we are. Okay, we're done.
You know, John is going to do a Q&A at the later session, so we're going to get a chance for that, but we have to head back to the 9:30 session. Thank you so much, John. You know, there were so many tweetable moments there. I wish I was at my phone there tweeting. So, guys, hashtag #ChangeLead17. Make sure you're tweeting and posting your pictures. We really want to see that. Make sure you happen. John, thank you so much.
Thank you. And Yvonne, if they want to become part of the John Maxwell team, if they can,
yes,
you'll
yes.
tell them how to do that?
Yeah, there's a table, there's an exhibition table, olive blue, right there, number 1 at the corner. Just put your name there, and we will get back to you about that. But thank you so much. John is all, we have some of John's books. Yes, let's give it on a hand. So we have a few of John's books. So I know some people have been asking, they want some of the other books. So we do have them downstairs for sale, some additional books that you didn't get today. And John will be signing those books again at 11:30. We do want people to head back to the other session so that you can get your table numbers, because you do have reserved seating at the front. So be sure to get your table numbers as you go back through. And there's going to be more of John. We're going to get more of John very soon.
That'll make you throw up. Okay. So do they all know where to go? You all know where to go?
Yes, so you're all heading to 718. Room 718, just go downstairs with the escalators. 718, their directions. 2 flights down.
Okay, well, let's
2
get going.
flights down.
All right.
Let's give John one more round of applause. Thank you so much, John. Thank you.